Yo, so today we're gonna make a pineapple accord. Okay, so today's video is gonna be making a pineapple accord. Now, this was a video that I wanted to make a couple of months ago. I was trying to make a nice pineapple accord. However, it was one of those things that just got pushed further and further and further down my to-do list, and I never ended up doing it. So now, I finally got around to it. Anyway, a lot of perfumers like making things like floral accords, for example, and I probably will get around to doing that at some point. However, I really like making fruity accords. It's just because I really like the way fruits smell, and I like the different fruity smells you can get. So the good thing is there are lots of different fruits, so we can make lots of different fruit accords, right? And I thought today pineapple would be a good one to do, just because it's quite an easy fruity accord, and it's based around mostly one aroma chemical, which is allyl hexanoate. What is allyl hexanoate, you may ask? Well, I'm going to be bringing out the book of perfume and flavor chemicals. We're going to find out. So basically, what it says in here, allyl caparate it's called. So allyl hexanoate or allyl caparate, they're both different names for the same thing. There's some other names as well. There's allyl N-hexanoate, 2-propanol hexanoate, vinyl carbonyl hexanoate, and allyl hexalate. But the name doesn't matter. It's all the same aroma chemical. So what does it say? Almost insoluble in water, we don't care. Miscible with alcohol, essential oils, and perfume and flavor chemicals, that's great. Now what it says about the smell. Slightly pungent, fruity, fatty odor, reminiscent of pineapple, rum, arak, I don't know what arak is, but whatever. Remotely of peach, less ethereal, but more natural pineapple-like than methyl caparate. I don't know what methyl caparate smells like, but yeah, who knows. Then it says something about the uses. So the ester finds some use in perfumery as part of a fruity top note complex in fragrance types such as Mystère, Intimate, Cabochard, Magritte, etc. In combination with green and mossy notes, it may form a characteristic part of such fragrance types. It also tends to round off predominant aldehyde notes in combination with sterol esters. Then it talks about some other things. You can use it in flavorings as well if you want. And yeah, pretty much. So that's it. Now, allyl hexanoate then, what does it smell like? Well, to me, it does smell of pineapple. You know, you open the bottle and you're like, yeah, it smells of pineapple. But the interesting thing about allyl hexanoate is it smells like a 1D version of pineapple, right? It smells like this big yellow pineapple-y blob, but it's not quite there yet. It smells a bit synthetic. It doesn't smell like the full fruit. And that's kind of the purpose of this accord, is to get somewhere from that pineapple note, which is the allyl hexanoate, and build it into a proper accord that really smells like pineapple, which is what I want to do. Now, it also smells a bit of an ester kind of smell. You'll find when you use esters, of which allyl hexanoate is one, there is this general kind of ester smell that you will get to know if you smell some esters. Also, another thing about these fruity esters is when you've got quite a high concentration or a low dilution, they can smell very pungent and strong. So for example, for me at 10%, the allyl hexanoate is extremely strong. At 1%, it's got a nice pineapple-y note, and at 0.1%, it's got a very subtle pineapple-y hint. Another thing about it is it's a very volatile top note. So for me, this only lasted on the scent strip for less than 15 minutes. So after 2 minutes, it smells nice, it smells like pineapple, but after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's completely gone. So this basically means, considering that the allyl hexanoate is going to be the major component of the accord, this accord's basically going to end up being a top note accord because its major character is going to vanish after some short amount of time. So now you may be asking, well, what are these other ingredients we're going to use to make the accord? Now, I've got 3 magic ingredients up my sleeve for making fruit accords. These are cis-free hexanol, fructone, and ethyl maltol. So the reason I love these 3 aroma chemicals, I recommended them in the starter kit on my beginning perfumery video. The reason I love these chemicals so much is that they're so versatile and you can use them in so many, not only fruit accords, but also other situations as well. So let's talk about them. Okay, the first one, cis-free hexanol. This is the smell of fresh cut grass. Just like allyl hexanoate, it's a hyper top note. It's something that you put on the scent strip and after 15 minutes, it's completely gone. Now, the reason that cis-free hexanol is so important is it's found in loads and loads and loads of natural products, including fruits such as pineapple. If you actually look at the constituents found in an analysis of volatile components of pineapple. So they boil it up or something, and then they collect the volatile gases and they see what it's constructed of. You actually find there is cis-free hexanol inside the pineapple. So this is a great note that you can use for adding a tiny bit of realism to fruit accords. It gives you just a little bit of greenness. Next we have fructone, which is, I would describe as a fizzy, sweet, fruity kind of smell. It's very sugary. This I would describe as a soulless fruit. And the reason I describe it as that is because it smells definitely like a fruit, but it smells like a fruit before it's had any character added. So it's like a grey fruit. It doesn't smell like any fruit in particular, but it just smells like a fruit as such. Now this one lasts longer on the scent strip. It's getting more to a mid note. It lasts maybe a few hours to a day or so on the scent strip. The final one is ethyl maltol. So maltol is something that is formed in Maillard reactions, which is what happens when you caramelize sugar. So for example, in jam, or when you bake a cake, or when you're making toffee or caramel, that kind of thing, that nice caramelic smell, that sugary smell you get is something called maltol. Now what they found was if you add an ethyl in chemistry to the maltol, you actually get a really nice flavor and fragrance material, which is really widely used, called ethyl maltol. Now ethyl maltol again is great for these fruit accords because it gives you that jammy kind of character, that sugary jammy note, and it really helps the accord smell more real and more fruity. Right then, so getting onto the trial batches that I did. Now I started off with two first formulations. I wanted to take that allyl hexanoate that we've been talking about, and I wanted to add it to the ethyl maltol and the fructone to basically see if I could get the right ratios of these materials. Now originally on the scent strip, what I found was the allyl hexanoate, I liked it best at 1%. And the fructone and the ethyl maltol I also thought went quite well at 1%. So what I did was I took one step up to 10% and blended these together in a 1-to-1 ratio. Why did I do that? Why did I go up to 10% and then blend them in 1-to-1? The reason for that is if I take two of these materials, so allyl hexanoate and ethyl maltol, for example, both at 10%, by the time I blended them into a 1-to-1 ratio, they've effectively been halved by adding one to the other. So at this point, effectively, they're already with 5%. Now I'm worried that down the line, the more things I add, the weaker and weaker they're going to get again. So what I'm hoping is by the time I finish with the accord, that we're going to get back down closer to the 1% range, which is where I think is the right kind of concentration level for these aroma chemicals. But anyway, you'll see that at the end of the video. I'm going to put the actual percentages I use, so you'll see it. Don't worry about it. We'll get back to it. So these two test trials then. So ethyl maltol and allyl hexanoate, and ethyl maltol and fructone, both 1-to-1, 10%. These went quite well. I thought they were both pretty balanced. I was quite happy that I'd roughly got the right concentrations, and I didn't think that any of them were massively, one was overpowering the other. So I thought, okay, this is going well. This was good. So what I did was I now did another trial. This next trial was all three in a 1-to-1 ratio. So the ethyl maltol, the fructone, and the allyl hexanoate. At this point it was going great because again, I felt like all of the three ingredients were balanced. So a 1-to-1 ratio of all of those three together, and I still felt like everything was roughly in the right concentration range. At this point I was happy to keep moving forward and continuing adding things. One thing I might note at this point was I did feel like the fructone and the ethyl maltol were maybe slightly too strong compared to the allyl hexanoate. So I did think, maybe later on I'm going to bring them down, but that difference as such wasn't super massive. So I thought, considering that if I add more things, it's going to change the whole blend anyway, for now, it's fine leaving them as a 1-to-1 ratio. So next we have the fourth trial. Now this one was really cool. So this is when I started adding in the cis-free hexanol. Now cis-free hexanol is quite strong. So when I was working around with this, I thought I'm probably going to have to dilute it one step further down in order to make this balance. So in order to solve this being stronger, what I did was I used a cis-free hexanol that was another 10 times lower diluted. So this one was at the 1% instead of all the other aroma chemicals I was using, which were at 10%. So at this point I was using a 1-to-1 ratio, everything 0.1 grams. except for the cis-free hexanol, the actual dilution of which I was doing that with was another step further down, so 1 instead of 10. Now this one I really liked. At this point, you can really smell so much more in the pineapple. So that Allyl Hexanoate that we started with was very 1D, and this really smells like you've actually got a pineapple, and it just smells like you've just put your face in it, you know. It smells like you got the pineapple, you made a hole in it, and you just stuck it on your head. It's getting there. I mean, it's not perfect, right? It does smell, I would say the cis-free hexanol is a bit strong. And the other thing though that I noticed about this one was, yes, it's great, but after time, it very quickly falls off. Now the problem here is that the Allyl Hexanoate and the cis-free hexanol are both such hyper top notes. They're so volatile that only after a few minutes, when they start to evaporate, you've really only got the ethyl maltol and the fructone left on the scent strip. So the kind of pineapple character really gets lost. To fix this, I had one more trick up my sleeve. Now the way to deal with this was, there is one other pineapple chemical that I have, and this one is called allyl glycolate. Now the thing about allyl glycolate is that when you smell it, it smells pretty bad, or at least I think. So for me, at 10%, it's really harsh, chemically disgusting. You can smell this greeny pineapple note behind all that, but overall it smells pretty unpleasant. Even at 1%, it doesn't smell amazing. So what I did was I thought, okay, if I take this mixture and I add some of this allyl glycolate and I put it in at 1%, like that cis-free hexanol, if I put it in a bit weaker, it's probably going to be fine, right? The good thing about the allyl glycolate is that it lasts a lot longer than the Allyl Hexanoate. So even though to begin with it smells a bit more disgusting, it lasts a lot longer, and over time it doesn't smell so bad. So after a while, the pineapple note in it really comes out a bit more. The harsh chemically note goes away a bit, and it's lasting way longer. So if you want your pineapple liqueur to last a long time, I thought, well, this is a good solution, so we could maybe try to use this. Now, unfortunately, in the sample that I made, even though I used such a low concentration of this stuff, it still had that harsh chemically ester smell, which I didn't want in the accord. So, okay, I thought, let's do another trial. This time I took down the concentration by 10 times again of that allyl glycolate, and I again put one component of that into the mixture. And I was actually quite surprised. At this level, it smelled fine. It was, to begin with, almost unnoticeable any difference between this and the other trial that I just made without any allyl glycolate, which was the one I really liked. But the difference here is this trial, the actual pineapple note lasted a lot longer. It really seamlessly blended from the allyl hexanoate to the allyl glycolate. You really wouldn't notice. And I was really happy with the way this turned out. Now, one final thing. So I made one final trial, and the reason for that was, at this point, I'd kind of realized the things that I mentioned before, the ethyl maltol being a little bit too high, and the cis-free hexanol being a little bit too high. Fructone, I was actually kind of happy with in the end at the level. So I decided to halve both of those. And what this did was it made that greenness a bit more subtle. It made the ethyl maltol, that sugary toffee note, which remember I said was the most long-lasting note, while that was weaker as well, which meant especially in the mid-note region, so when you're leaving it after a day or a few hours on the scent strip, it wasn't so much that it just smelled of ethyl maltol, it was more of kind of a sweet, pineapple-y, just a bit more faint smell, which was, I think, good. So this one, I'm really happy with actually in the end. So yeah, this accord, honestly, it turned out way better than I thought it was gonna, which is really nice because we didn't do that many trials in the end, and it went pretty well. And yeah, I'm really liking this. When you smell this one compared to the original Allyl Hexanoate on its own, you can smell such a big difference. The Allyl Hexanoate smells like a pineapple kind of synthetic note. This accord to me smells like a real pineapple, or at least much closer to it. So I'm happy with it, it's cool. So here's my formula for you guys. You can have a look at it. If you want to steal it, you want to copy it, go for it. But the thing here is you can see the final concentrations of the aroma chemicals used. So remember at the start I was saying, okay, I think Allyl Hexanoate smells quite good at 1% concentration on the scent strip. Well, by the time we'd added all of these extra ingredients, what we actually ended up with was a 2.5% in the final solution concentration of Allyl Hexanoate, which is much closer to that 1% Sen strip than the 10% dilution we were making it from. So that's why I decided to go one level up, making the blends, because I knew that that concentration of it would fall back down. See, we started with 10 and we ended up with 2.5. Another thing you can see here is how low the concentration of the allyl amyl glycolate is. It's actually really crazy, the fact that we're only using 0.025% in the final formula, yet when you smell the strip after 1 hour, the difference it makes is massive. It makes it going from not really smelling of pineapple anymore to still definitely smelling of pineapple, which I think is really cool. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this accord making process. Hopefully it helps you in some way, either just in general about how to make accords, or if you're looking to make a pineapple accord, or just a fruit accord in general, maybe it gives you some pointers in the right direction. And that's kind of my approach, and that's my take on it. Anyway, yeah, so enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for watching the video. Please give it a like, and also feel free to comment any questions you may have. I would be happy to try to answer them if I can.